Much of the work that I have focused on in recent years has had to do with civic ecology practices in suddenly chaotic red zones. In the book Greening in the Red Zone, this idea of red zones and the interesting term itself is discussed. One of the first uses of the term was in reference to Zone Rouge, which is French, of course, for red zone, the name given to 465 square miles of northeastern France that were destroyed during the First World War. In more recent times, the term has been used to refer to unsafe areas in Iraq after the 2003 invasion of the U.S. and its allies. The opposite of green zone, which we heard lots of in those days, a presumably more safe area in Iraq. The term was also used by journalist Stephen Vincent as part of the title of his 2004 book, In the Red Zone, A Journey into the Soul of Iraq. And it's been used by others to describe lawless conditions such as those of the Rwandan genocide. If you did an internet search for red zone, you would see how the term is currently used in entertainment and news media to serve as a shorthand for war, a hostile zone, a contaminated zone, or a zone characterized by increased intensity and higher stakes, like even in the game American football. For our purposes, we use the term red zone to refer to multiple settings, places, or spaces, and time frames that may be characterized as intense, potentially or recently hostile or dangerous, including those in post-disaster, like natural disasters, hurricanes, earthquakes, and so forth, as well as those associated with terrorist attacks and warfare. If we think about a fuse on a stick of dynamite, we can understand how these red zones could be thought of as fast burn. They pop up quick, and they make quite an explosive impact. But what about the so-called slow-motion disasters, the creeping devastation of famine or drought or economic disinvestment or decay? These we have begun to study as slow burn zones, which emerge in very different ways and include significantly different dynamics from the standpoint of systems thinking. As depicted in the graphic, the fast burn scenarios, what we have thoroughly studied in the context of greening in the red zone, these fast burns emerge quickly and present sudden damage and destruction, and then they dissipate over time. In contrast, the slow burn scenarios build and build over time until the disastrous effects cannot be ignored anymore. The intersection of these lines on the graphic is important in that it signals that perhaps there's a threshold somewhere that must be crossed for civic ecology practices to emerge. Must a place be broken for civic ecology practices to emerge? How broken? How injured, and for how long? We are actively examining these kinds of questions, asking to what degree and in what forms do civic ecology practices emerge in these slow burn contexts? And how do they differ? Or are they different? Or are they the same? What might the answers to those questions mean in terms of how we think about civic ecology practices? There's an old adage about a frog in a kettle. As the story goes, if you plop a frog in boiling hot water, it wastes no time jumping out to safety. But if you slowly raise the temperature, the story goes, the frog will not realize its plight until it's too late. Of course, there's likely no physical or scientific basis for this as far as frog experts are concerned, but from the standpoint of our work, there is a lesson to be learned, or at least a puzzle to be solved. We are currently comparing a fast burn scenario in Joplin, Missouri, with a slow burn scenario in Detroit, Michigan, for instance. And we have recently completed a study of a slow burn or small boom scenario to begin to see whether or not only timescales make a difference, but also intensity or magnitude might make a difference. Do civic ecology practices emerge in the same way around nuisance issues versus major disruptions? Understanding the differences between fast burn and slow burn as contexts and as related to the emergence of civic ecology practices is important both because the policy environments and the physical environments in these different scenarios will likely be different.